What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am continuing my recap of the Scream series, and we are now up to Scream 4, which came out in 2011. Now, this movie is the biggest jump between movies thus far. After that first movie, it was only a year later that we had part two. Then you're talking 3 years after that for part three. And now we have an 11-year jump to part four. So things get a little bit different here. And I got to say, it's probably well worth the wait because the best thing I can say about part four is it is a definite step up from part three. That is without question. Like I mentioned in my, part three review, just not crazy about it overall. And Scream 4 does some things better than that. However, it is still one of the more disappointing entries in the series, and I'll get into why here in a few minutes. Just want to go ahead and let you know up top. This review will contain some spoilers, so if you have not seen Scream 4, please go watch it and then come back and watch the review and let me know what you thought about it. But yeah, with Scream 4, we're jumping forward 11 years, and now we have a new group of kids at Woodsboro High that are getting murdered by, once again, Ghostface. Who is it this time? Who's it going to be? We bring back the original trio. We got Nev Campbell back as Sidney. We got Courtney Cox back as Gail. And we've got David Arquette back as Dewey. And like I said, we got a crop of new kids here just all waiting to be slaughtered. And yeah, chaos ensues. It's crazy, right? It's Scream. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie. I think it works pretty well for the most part. I do enjoy it. Like I said, it's definitely not the bottom of the barrel when it comes to this franchise, but there's certain things that it does that I'm not a huge fan of. And we'll get into it here. But overall, it is an enjoyable movie. Just going to put that out there. Like I've said in all of these reviews, the Scream series does not have a bad movie. So by no means is this bad. Does it do some things that annoy me? Sure. Yeah, that's going to happen. But there are some really good kills here. There's some great performances by some of the cast. And overall, it's got the good Scream atmosphere that you've had for the first three movies. It continues here in this fourth one. But I think what my biggest problem with it is this is a movie that's playing off of all of the remakes and torture porn that were all really rampant in the 2000s. So it's trying to, play up those tropes and poke fun at that type of movie. And honestly, the 2000s were not a great time for horror movies. You obviously had some good ones there, here and there, but overall, it was a weird period where it seemed like audiences didn't really know what they wanted. Studios didn't really know what to do either. So you just had a lot of randomness and a lot of, hey, let's just take all these old properties from the 70s and the 80s and let's just remake them and, bring them out for this new audience. And some of them work, some of them don't. But this is a testament of Scream 4 because it's trying to poke so much fun at those type of movies and those remakes and those torture porn movies. And while some of it's funny and humorous, it just doesn't work all that well. For instance, the opening sequence of this movie. I'm not a big fan of it overall. I don't like the double fake out that it does. You're showing the trend of these movies where as they go on and as they contain more sequels, they get more ridiculous, and that's cool, but it just gets a little tiresome after a while. So yeah, getting into the cast of this movie, like I said, the original three are back. All of them are doing a fine job here. Nev Campbell's great. David Arquette is great. Courtney Cox is good as well. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say about them. They're all doing a fine job. Some of the newcomers do well. However, this new group of kids, not a lot of them are all that interesting, unfortunately. Outside of Kirby, who's played by Hayden Panettiere, she has become one of my favorite characters in all of the Scream series, and I'm glad to see she's coming back for part six. But yeah, outside of Kirby, you just don't have a whole lot going on for the other kids. You have Emma Roberts, who plays Jill. She is Sidney's cousin, and you would think she would kind of be the strongest of this new batch of kids, and unfortunately she's really not. And I've never been a huge fan of Emma Roberts, and it's not to say that she's bad here. She actually does a pretty good job in the role. It just feels like they're not giving her as much as she needs for this character. And, you know, that might be more of a testament to the writing here, more so than uh, Emma Roberts' performance. But nonetheless, like I said, out of all these new kids, Hayden Panettiere is really the only one that stands out. Outside of them, you have some character actors that play some smaller roles here. Here you have like Marley Shelton, who plays Deputy Hicks, who is kind of like a love interest for Dewey, not really, but she's also kind of a red herring, not really. And then you have two other officers that are played by Adam Brody and Anthony Anderson, who have a few funny lines here and there. You also have Alison Brie, who is Sydney's manager. She wrote a book that is being released, and that's kind of how she gets brought back into Woodsboro and everything. And you know, it's nice seeing some of these character actors who are good in other things, especially in their comedic roles. Here they get to be a little bit funny, but you know, it's cool seeing them all meet pretty grisly deaths, you could say. So Wes Craven is back in the director's seat. Unfortunately, this was the last movie that he made before his death, and that's sad to say because honestly, he could have went out on a better movie. But again, not to say that Scream 4 is bad; it's just not one of his best. But he does elevate it enough and make it work better than, you know, if it was in the hands of somebody who was a lesser director. Kevin Williamson is doing the script once again. Kind of like in part three, it doesn't feel all that witty and doesn't feel all that snappy with the dialogue and things like that. This one I do think is more genuinely funny than part three. I think it finds that balance again that the first two movies had, where it walks a fine line between actually good horror as well as, you know, very funny and humorous moments. And this movie does not shy away from the blood. This up until this point is probably the goriest movie in the series. There is a very gruesome death with one of these high school kids, and wow, she gets murdered. The opening sequence has some good blood and gore. So if that's, you know, why you watch these movies, to really get into some of the kills, this one definitely does well and has some of the better ones in the series, I would say. Boiling all down, when you get to the reveal at the end of the ghost face, again, not super impressed with who they decide to go with. I don't know if I mentioned it in my other videos, but really outside of Billy and Stu thus far, the Ghostface reveals have all just been very lackluster for me. I think Billy and Stu kind of set the bar really high, and it's just been disappointment after disappointment after that. I do like these way better than Roman, that's for sure. But Jill and Charlie being the two killers, it almost seems like kind of a safe way to go, because they do allude to it throughout the movie. They kind of make it a little obvious that it's going to be Jill. But even when she gets revealed, I do actually like the reveal itself. It's actually a pretty tense moment, and when it gets to the point where Emma Roberts is basically beating herself up at the end of the movie, absolutely one of the funniest scenes, not only in this movie but in the Scream franchise as a whole. Um, you know, that one still gets me every time I watch it. That's about all I can really say about Scream 4. I like it enough. Like I said, it's one of the more disappointing entries in this franchise. It does some things well, but it definitely has its flaws, and sometimes the flaws kind of outweigh what's good about it, because you have some very weak characters, some very forgettable characters, for that matter, just ones that aren't all that appealing. You have a bright spot in Hayden Panettiere being in the cast. The original three are great. I do actually like Marley Shelton as Deputy Hicks. I think she does a good job and kind of stands out as well. But with the rest of the cast, they all just fall flat. And unfortunately, this is in the lower tier of the franchise, but still enjoyable enough overall. I would probably give it about a 6 out of 10. You know, kind of right there in the middle. Not too bad, but not too good either. Yeah, that's about it for me, guys. If you have seen Scream 4, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews and continuing on with my Scream recap. I'll leave all my links down below on where you can follow me and where you can check out more of my reviews. And until next time, I'll catch you all later.